We are now in an era of megafires. For the past several summers, we have seen community after community devastated by giant wildfires. In 2018, it was Paradise. In 2020, it was Santa Rosa.
And in 2022, it could be your community. I'm Nick Linda, and I study real estate development because I want to build resilient, sustainable cities. Wildfires are a massive threat to California cities and towns, and today, we're going to talk about a few ways to deal with them. How did it come to this? For one, decades of fire suppression policy have meant that forest management agencies put out every wildfire, including the small ones that burn up debris like this. As climate change makes our summers hotter and drier, that built-up debris gets drier as well, and more prone to burning. The problem is only going to get worse. Even as wildlands have become more dangerous to build in, development has been pushing farther and farther into them, putting houses into contact with dry vegetation and in the line of fire. These places are called the wildland-urban interface, or the WUI.
The WUI is also a major cause of wildfires because human activities can create sparks that ignite built-up fuel. This is everything from operating machinery in dry grass to faulty electrical lines igniting fires when downed in high winds. The only real, lasting way to prevent the destruction wrought by wildfires is to get California back into a healthy fire regime. The solution is frankly not to eliminate fire from the state. It's to learn to live with small fires that prevent the big fires. But we've built communities that don't take fire into account, and as a state, we're paying the price. Redfin reports that California has over 700,000 homes in areas of high fire risk. And that generally means homes in the WUI. That's $627 billion of assets at risk, and the homes of well over 1 million people.
Harden your home with fire ignition-resistant materials before wildfire strikes.
CAL FIRE has a comprehensive list of home hardening retrofits and strategies that work to protect homes.
Upgrades to your roof, vents, windows, deck, fence, and more can harden your home.
These are all great, but what if we scaled defensible space to be around entire cities? The city of Paradise saw the value of this after the 2018 fire and collaborated with several partners to come up with a plan to create a citywide firebreak.
The plan doesn't necessarily involve the city owning all the land around it. While the city is turning some of that land into managed parks that don't burn, the city is also working with landowners to establish land management standards that, when implemented, work to create zones of less flammable land.
This kind of firebreak management plan works. In 2017, the Thomas Fire was effectively prevented from burning Montecito, California, because the community created a similar firebreak. It took them 18 years and a total of $2 million to create, but that's peanuts on a city budget level. The Camp Fire, which devastated Paradise, caused an estimated $16.5 billion in damage, $4 billion of which were uninsured.
Communities across the state can take inspiration from Paradise and Montecito to create firebreak planning that works for them. The key is just to make sure that the land is managed and maintained so that it works as an effective firebreak, and, if done correctly, the maintenance itself can be a revenue generator for the community it protects. For example,
wine country towns can incentivize vineyards in strategic areas around their communities, while Southern California cities can devote land to ranch lands. If done right, these firebreaks can not only protect against wildfires, but give communities a fighting chance against megafires. Why are we building in WUIs if they're so dangerous? One big factor is cost. WUIs have relatively low land costs, and in places like California, where housing is so expensive, It's no wonder developers are building in places where it's relatively cheap.
One way to take pressure off of development in the WUI is to densify existing communities that are already out of the way of wildfire. Ask any seasoned urban developer about how policy can make this cheaper and easier, and they'll have plenty of ideas. But one idea recently has been to eliminate single-family zoning statewide.
But let's be realistic. We will still have development in and around wildlands. The Gwinnett Valley project, proposed in Lake County, creates its own community fire break through grazing land and vineyards, and the project even includes fire detecting cameras. Despite this, the state has intervened and is suing the project, claiming in part that all those measures are not enough. Before developers even start a project, builders and regulators need to be on the same page about what is enough wildfire risk mitigation. When developers plan a building, they make sure to adhere to building codes so that the inspectors will sign off on the project.
We need similar, objective, codified standards for wildfire risk mitigation measures. Objective standards make it easier for developers to mitigate their risk, while making it easier for the state to hold them accountable.
A crucial piece of creating these objective standards is data. One non-government source of objective standards is Climate Check, a company that analyzes climate change-related risk and assigns a risk index to properties. Whether the government defines it or Climate Check assigns it, having a standard index is a solid base on which to make decisions. How are we going to pay for all these wildfire mitigation measures? Admittedly, many costs will be borne by individual homeowners and the developers building new product. But what about those community-scale fire breaks and other public infrastructure? The fact of the matter is that counter-wildfire infrastructure is just that, infrastructure. Cities have financed infrastructure for countless projects, and there are proven ways to do it.
In 2018, Foster City voters overwhelmingly approved Measure P, which raises $90 million through taxes to fund improvements to the city's seawall in anticipation of sea level rise. This translates to an extra $272 per household per year. The alternative? Over $2,000 annually for flood insurance.
Homeowners, policymakers, and planners have a choice. Pay for improvements that protect communities from climate change disasters, or pay many multiples more to rebuild after the fact.
There are plenty of stakeholders with a vested interest in collectively raising funds for preventative development projects, and they need to make their voices heard. Homeowners, county supervisors, even members of the insurance industry, all should advocate for policies that raise funds for improvements.
Bond financing, sale of public assets, and creative public-private partnerships are all available in cities' financial toolboxes already. But sometimes that is not enough, and municipalities need to explore novel financing tools. Organizations like the Milken Institute and companies like AECOM suggest the creation of new financial products specifically designed for resilience projects, such as catastrophe bonds and resilience bonds. Other recommendations include the establishment of resilience finance corporations. But before exploring these new financing methods, cities should first look to previously successful methods of financing critical infrastructure. Building infrastructure is not anything new for cities, and if they make wildfire infrastructure a priority, the money is out there. We need to accept the scale of wildfires today as the new normal. But we should not accept the level of destruction they cause. The policies and industries that shape the built environment in fire-prone areas need to adapt to stave off megafires. If communities protect what's currently at risk, build better going forward, and consider counter-wildfire infrastructure critical infrastructure, we can avert wildfire disaster in the coming years.
We are in the midst of the megafire era, but it does not have to be one of destruction and devastation. Californians have fixed environmental problems before. There was a time that San Francisco Bay was nothing more than a polluted lagoon, and you couldn't see the mountains in LA through the eternal smog. But when we put our hearts and minds to them, we met these challenges head on, and within a lifetime can swim in confidence and breathe easy. We can meet this challenge. We can choose to avert wildfire disaster. We just need to build our communities better.